Hello, I'm Greg Skulmoski, and I'm going to talk about project management. And so this is where you fit. I'm a project manager, and I'll be working with programmers like you. So let's begin. I'm going to make a number of 3 key points. First of all, where does Qiskit fit? Second is that how does Qiskit fit in the world of project management? And then finally, next steps. Where can we go after this week? A little bit about myself. I started in projects in a hospital in Canada, and my very first project was to install a new computers, and these were the very first ones with a mouse. So no one really knew how to use Windows. So that was my first introduction to a technology project. One of the things was that at that time it was software engineering projects for finance, and I didn't understand it. So I went and did a PhD in project management at the University of Calgary. What an amazing experience. And I found the Project Management Institute chapter, and I volunteered and got to know the people. And one thing led to another that I was invited onto the Project Management Body of Knowledge Update Committee. The PMBOK Guide is the #1 selling project management book in the history of project management. So I'm very fortunate to be one of the authors. I wanted to teach project management, so I went to Abu Dhabi, and I was there for 17 years. It was an amazing experience. But I wanted to practice what I professed. So I left academia and returned as a project manager for a new hospital in Abu Dhabi, Cleveland Clinic. And this was a $6 billion hospital. Amazing. They wanted to get the best surgeons and physicians, and we promised them that we would give them world-class technologies for their treatment and research. I delivered 18 major projects during my 8 years. And one of the things that I found out is if you work with IT security long enough, you're going to hear them say, don't build what you can't protect. So what I did was I invited security teams into my planning and design phases. And so we built systems that were easy to protect. And because of this designing in security, I won a major Middle East award from Chief Information Security Officers. Well, I wanted to research and teach again, so I came to Bond University in Australia. And after about 3 years here in 2021, my very last project that I was leading, it won a major innovation award. So we connected pacemakers and defibrillators, connected them with Bluetooth, sent the signal to the cloud in the hospital. We collected data for about a year, and then the surgeons published a journal paper outlining the improvements to health. And that ended up the #3 medical innovation in the world. We had an amazing team, and I found out that this project management really worked. Shortly thereafter, I was asked if I'd wanted to write a book. And so I said, yeah, well, I wrote a book about project management and cybersecurity. I continued to write books, and my last 2 books were about quantum, and I joined the Tasmanian Quantum Network, and we won an international competition for our strategy based on my book. And last month, in September, I was honored that my 4 books won a major award from the Australian Institute of Project Management, Research Excellence. So I'm going to share with you quantum technologies from a project management perspective and make the case that Qiskit programmers will play a fundamental part in these technologies. So why Qiskit? one reason there's a demand for these transformational technologies. We don't do Qiskit programming for ourselves, we'll do Qiskit programming for others. The World Economic Forum has predicted that quantum will change the world. So find out how quantum will transform society. And this report outlines many business cases for the adoption of technology and its impact on society. So Qiskit programmers will make these changes possible.
John,
This future is only possible with you. Nikhil, there's some interference. Can someone mute their microphone, please? Thank you. So you have an amazing opportunity ahead of you. My recommendation is to be like a sponge and learn. Leave social media away for a while, focus on the tasks at hand, and indeed, tonight, tomorrow night, review your notes, make the best of it. This is an amazing opportunity for you and for society. I want to share with you this statistic. $35.5 billion is the global investments in technologies in 2022. So it's a little bit of an old statistic, but it's often recited. But for me, it's not the numbers. Rather, it shows how far ahead China is in leading these technologies. So more than 15 times the investment of India and my country, Canada. We're really behind. And in Australia, look at the bottom. So I have a lot of work here in Australia to help catch up. But here is an interesting point. At the beginning of this year, China announced a further 140 billion US dollars investment in quantum and related technologies. So they are investing a lot of money. They want to take the leadership role. But here's the worrying point. Microsoft, in their digital defense report this year, has identified these 4 countries as the leading actors of hacking, state-sponsored hacking. So that's North Korea, Iran, Russia, and China. So not only is China investing and researching in quantum, they're also stealing from researchers in India, United States, Australia. So when we put these two things together, the investment in technology and theft by state-sponsored hackers, it's something to be taken serious. Okay, there's 3 types of quantum technologies that we can use project management as a delivery method. I'm going to talk a little bit more about quantum computing, but I want to briefly touch on quantum sensing and communications. Quantum sensing, it's sensing, but more precision, more accuracy, more sensitivity. So, for example, we'll be able to detect cancers and the markers of the disease 5-10 years earlier with these new sensors. Quantum communications, that's the new internet, the backbone. And China is leading the world in quantum key distribution with the internet and satellites. And so it'll be a new backbone, a new internet. And this will allow autonomous flying vehicles. And it's just going to change society immensely. So this is where China is also leading. Now, with quantum computing, this is where Qiskit comes into the computing and its applications. Qiskit is unlikely to be used in quantum sensing and communications, but we will see it in quantum computing. So let's look at that. If you look at the leading countries in the world, they all have quantum strategies. They all want to be the best. They all want to be leaders. But in each of these documents, they outline a major constraint. And the constraint or the problem facing all these countries is there's not enough quantum talent. Well, amazing, this opportunity you have this week to upskill and learn. So congratulations for doing this and your dedication. You are filling the gap. Amazing. But let's look at why there's a growing demand. So there's a growing demand for quantum, for innovation, to do new things, but also hackers want the quantum computer because it'll give them the advantage. So there's a growing trend that organizations are adopting quantum technologies to optimize business processes. I want to talk a little bit about the dual potentialities of quantum technologies. Quantum is a technology, and technologies have dual potentialities, meaning they can be used for good purposes and for bad purposes. So I can use my email to threaten a student or use my email to encourage a student. The technology is neutral, it's how it's used. Same for quantum. So I come from healthcare, and quantum computing will transform healthcare. So these are the positive benefits. But the only way we get these positive benefits in healthcare is to implement quantum technologies through projects. We just can't go to Lulu Center and buy these technologies. We have to plan, implement, and optimize through projects. Now, the hackers want a quantum computer, and we can protect our organizations through projects to strengthen our encryption, our cryptography. So the dual potentialities, the good stuff and the bad stuff, it's all implemented and protected through projects. So why do organizations want quantum? One of the main reasons is they want to optimize flows. So an airport, think about all the different flows through the airport. My luggage, my suitcase, goes through the airport and ends up on the plane. I take a different path. I go through immigration and I go through security, a different flow. The cabin crew have a different flow. The security that keeps us safe in the airport, they have different flows. People sometimes come on board with their dogs and cats. They have different flows. So we have lots of flows through airports. We want to minimize time, maximize throughput, minimize the carbon footprint flows. Supply chain, we also want to maximize. Manufacturing flows through a manufacturing company like BMW, they want to maximize throughput. University admission flows, clinical pathology flows. So when you were admitted to the university, they admitted you through a flow. So this area of flows is ripe for PhD research and full scholarships. So with further learning, think about master and PhD study. So how do organizations adopt quantum technologies to optimize these flows? How is it done? Well, that's what my books are about. Project management and program management. How to plan, implement, and optimize these technologies. So where do we start? Because quantum is technology, I recommend we use ITIL. ITIL is the Information Technology Infrastructure Library. This is a guide for IT professionals on how to manage technology. So it's how to deliver digital services like email, digital services like online libraries, digital services like supply chain applications. Quantum is a digital service. So how do we begin? Organizations begin with there's some sort of a demand, opportunity for technology. We don't implement technology because we have nothing to do. We implement technology because there's a demand for it or an opportunity. This is like quantum. So according to Iiit, we can follow their practices to guide our projects and operations in IT. So it begins with strategy management practice. This is about 6 to 10 pages, I think, and it explains how to develop an IT strategy. So if we want quantum, organizations should start with updating their strategic plans to add quantum. Once the strategy is updated, then there's funding or approval to proceed, and then it comes to me and you to develop quantum technologies through the project delivery approach. So here we plan and implement the technology, and I use more practices from Iiit. Iiit has a project management practice, risk management practice. For me, especially important was service validation and testing. These are the requirements. So Iiit guides me on how to capture these requirements, validate them, and after it's been built, test the system. It also guides me on how to release the new technology into the business operations. This is where Qiskit fits in. I will be working in the future with programmers like you to create new applications. Then we hand the application over to IT operations, and then they deploy it to the end users. Iiit also has practices for IT operations. For example, it explains how to manage the service desk. And if something goes wrong, my printer doesn't work, I forget my password, there's an incident management practice so that we can look after the end users. So IT operations, they deploy the new technology to the end users, and the end users use quantum to provide value. So the business use cases outlined by the World Economic Forum is an example of the value. Better batteries, improved green energy, ending world hunger, for example. So value then is produced, and eventually they will want continuous improvement. And so Iiit has service requests for new systems and to improve the ones we currently have. So Iiit guides IT professionals from end to end, from strategy through to projects, through to IT operations for these technologies. Amazing. In continual improvement, we might also see requests for additions or to fix things, and Qiskit programming could also occur here. So you can see the skills that you're developing this week are critical, and we have a way to manage them. So learn about Iiit. There's also a competing service management system called COBIT. I come from an Iiit background, but COBIT is almost exactly the same. So whichever you prefer, Qiskit has a place. So where do we begin? Iiit says start with strategy. So what we need to do is have organizations update their business strategy to use quantum technologies, maybe to disrupt the market or to add new services to take market share. So then the different departments will create business cases on how to introduce quantum technologies into manufacturing or how to use quantum technologies into healthcare. And then we will use the quantum technologies outlined in the business cases to achieve corporate strategy. So right now, organizations need to be updating their business strategy, developing business cases, and then implement projects. Well, once the business people have identified their new strategy for quantum, it then comes to us, the technology leadership team, to update the technology strategy to bring quantum technologies into the organization so that quantum business use cases can be implemented. So what we will have is an updated technology strategy that outlines how the organization will have a hybrid environment of classical technologies and quantum. We will still use classical technologies for email. We'll still use classical technologies for access into our library systems. But we'll use quantum technologies for more advanced applications. So we will have both hybrid and classical with quantum. After the technology strategy has been updated for quantum, then it comes to the IT security leadership. Now that we have new technologies, how do we protect them? And so they will look at two major elements. They need to adopt quantum safe technologies. That means new encryption. So this is called post-quantum cryptography. So after the quantum computer, post-quantum cryptography. But here's the problem. These new cryptography has never been tested because we don't have a powerful enough quantum computer today. So there is a risk that we will protect our organization with this new post-quantum cryptography, but it doesn't work. There's vulnerabilities. So then the organization will have to update the cryptography with version 2. Amazing amount of work this will require. And then we will have quantum cyber readiness. So we have quantum business strategy, technology strategy, and cybersecurity strategy. So there's a demand for quantum. We will implement projects for people to upskill them, like learning Qiskit, streamline the processes for a decade of projects, and implement these technologies. And so for me, it's just hardware, software, and integration. And I know how to do this. All IT project managers implement hardware, software, and integration. And so we implement these technologies to generate value. Again, it's just ITIL. Demand, projects, value. Let me show you some use cases from healthcare. This is based on the Kubo algorithm and a quantum annealing computer. This can be done with these early computers. So we want to optimize caregiver scheduling, like the intensive care unit nurse, the doctors and physicians and nurses in the emergency department, in the laboratory, and so forth. So we want to optimize so we have just the right amount of people to look after our patients. We also want to optimize the flow through our laboratory, our pathology lab that does biopsies on tissues, take blood tests, and analyze other types of samples. So what we want to do is optimize the people, the expensive equipment to testing, and all the expensive reagents. We want to optimize the flows through pathology labs. Likewise, we want to optimize the work that comes through the pharmacy. We also want to optimize learning, human resources. As you know, healthcare requires advanced skills like CPR and advanced CPR. These certifications expire after 1 year. So if they expire, we can't schedule the nurse in the ER. So what we want to do is optimize learning and provide training in the 12th month rather than the 6th month. So we want to optimize learning so that we can optimize scheduling. We also want to optimize the supply chain so we never run out, but we have the minimum viable stock on hand. And we want to optimize finance so that the patients pay the minimum amount and insurance pay the amount that they're contracted to pay. So with one quantum computer, we can do all these types of optimization use cases. And so I will rely upon Qiskit programmers to help me develop these systems. Amazing. So right now, we have off-the-shelf systems from Epic to do scheduling, pathology, and pharmacy tasks. And at the back end, we have SAP that does HR, finance, and supply chain. Today, organizations are updating their systems for AI features. So right now, hospitals are adding AI to these systems. And in the future, they will be adding quantum technologies, and these will be based on Qiskit. So there's a natural progression that's ongoing, and you are part of it. Amazing. And it's all ITIL again. We do all of this following ITIL. So get your ITIL certification. It's fairly easy. The book is about 200 pages. Most people say it's a fairly easy certification. So this will last you your professional career. So when you go to a new job, you will have an easier time to fit in because you know the ITIL way. ITIL is used by the top companies in the world. So get your ITIL certification and expect an amazing journey. ITIL. So let's look at projects. You are going to be valuable team members very quickly. So these dual potentialities, to get the good stuff into healthcare, we implement them through projects, and Qiskit programmers will be on my team. But we also have to protect the organization from hackers using a quantum computer. So all of this is project work. So what we can do is follow the project delivery approaches in standards and frameworks. Standards represent best practices. Follow me to reduce risks and improve quality. So ITIL is a framework that identifies best practices for IT professionals. PMI, the Project Management Institute, outlines project practices that are best practices. So with these two, ITIL and PMI, we have best practices for IT projects. The one that Qiskit is likely will be first involved in is the DevOps approach. And it's simply a continuous flow of functionality from the developers to operations. It begins with planning. So in the plan phase, we identify the requirements and what we're going to do. And then it comes to us, Qiskit programmers, who code and build, and then the testing team will test, make sure that there's no defects. So we find and fix defects, and then we release it to the IT operations team. They will then have a deployment strategy to deploy the new software to maybe just one department or maybe to everyone in the organization. And then it will be used by the end users, operate, and then leadership will monitor the effectiveness of this new technology. And then there'll be requests for continuous improvement, and we go back to plan, code, build, test, and release. So it's a continuous flow of new technologies and functionality to end users. And you're right in the middle of it. If you want to learn more, you can find out more from the DevOps Institute. Let me show you how the project delivery approach that I use. It's a little bit different, but you will see that it's pretty much same, but different. So this approach that I use, it's designed to reduce risks and deliver the right amount of quality. So projects begin with a demand. We don't do projects because we have nothing to do. So somewhere there's a demand for new technology like quantum computing, optimization. And so this approach is for off-the-shelf software. And so I worked in Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi with IBM for about 8 years to implement technologies. So we worked together to implement technologies like Oracle, Epic, Siemens, and so forth. So this isn't programming, it's off the shelf. It's already been programmed. So it starts with a demand, there's approval to proceed, there's funding, and then it comes to me. I initiate the project with a project sponsor, develop a one-page charter about what we're doing. Then we move on to the plan phase, where we identify the high-level requirements, develop a budget, schedule, in scope, out of scope, risk management plan, and so forth. It's then endorsed by the subject matter experts and then approved by leadership. Then we go into design. We design in security. We design in the standards. So the pharmacy project, we design in ISO standards for pharmacy. So we bring project management. The pharmacy people bring the design in the business case. I bring project management. The manufacturing team brings the design for the software. Okay. So after the design is approved, we then build or configure. This is not programming. This is much like getting a new phone with drop-down menus where we configure. We configure the time for India Standard Time. We configure the time for maybe Australian Standard Time, and so forth. So it's drop-down menus for configuration. Then we test it, and ITIL guides how to test with application testing, unit testing, regression testing, integration testing, and so forth. So here we find out it works, we get user acceptance, and then we move on to the final phase before we hand over. This is called the transition to production. This is identified in release management from ITIL, and there's about 32 activities we did here. So we have to develop a go live plan to move it from the test environment into the production environment. We do final penetration testing, backup and restore testing, develop our final communications for the end users, provide training, and so forth. So these are the final activities before we go live and deploy these new technologies. So we go live, deploy them, monitor that it's working, and then close out. So there we've delivered a system that's used by the end users, and they generate value. So again, you can see this is just ITIL. We have a demand, we have a project that provides deliverables, those deliverables are used, and they generate value. It's hybrid rather than waterfall project delivery because we can introduce iterations to figure out problems or improve the design. Also, we bring an agile attitude. We're adaptive. We're proactive. We front-end load. So this hybrid approach reduces risk and delivers the right amount of quality. It really works when done well. But I wouldn't use this for Qiskit because we're configuring rather than programming. I would use the previous DevOps approach if I was working with you. So there we have it, two different delivery approaches. And you can learn about these approaches from the Project Management Institute, the leading project management organization in the world. And you can get certified from this organization. So there we've seen the dual potentialities, that it can be used for good, and we can implement, use the project delivery approach to implement these technologies. But unfortunately, there's people in the world that want these technologies to do bad things. So let's look at that. So there's a severe risk that due to a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, there is a severe risk that data may be stolen and unlocked. So a severe risk means there's high probability and it'll have a high impact on the organization. That's a severe risk. So high probability means it's going to happen. So there's two parts here to this risk. The first risk is that it can be stolen. The second risk, it can be unlocked with a quantum computer. But we don't have that computer today. So the real risk, it can be stolen today, number one, and unlocked in the future. They call this risk steal now, decrypt later, or harvest now, decrypt later. So there's many organizations that are already compromised and they don't know it. But in the future, hackers will unlock their data. It's been estimated that to unlock or to crack or to hack classical encryption, it takes about 300 trillion years. So our encryption today, RSA 2048, is very strong. It's been protecting us since 1977. And it takes 300 trillion years to break this encryption. But with a quantum computer, it's been estimated a hacker can break in about 8 hours. So think of that, from 300 trillion years to 8 hours. Oh my goodness. So what's at risk? The hacker can get this data: financial statements, tax information, research and development, technical data, military strategy and tactics, computer code. All of this is available to a hacker. So they can break in and steal this information. So what do we have to do? We either have to upgrade the technology, but if the new encryption doesn't fit, we will then have to replace the software and hardware. So we will either have to upgrade, and if it doesn't degrade performance with a new encryption, then we will have to replace if we have performance problems. So the experts are recommending that it will take about 9 years to complete this encryption migrations. So this is not a quick fix. It's a sustained 9-year program of projects to safeguard organizations against a hacker stealing organizational data and personally identifiable information. So we have a major privacy issue coming. So what do we have to do? So we need to address these risks and opportunities. So it starts with a business strategy, an updated IT strategy, and a cybersecurity strategy that is aligned. We have strategic alignment. So that's the first thing we need for successful projects. So what type of projects do we need to do? The very first project is to make sure that our locks, our encryption, is rock solid to protect against the steal now decrypt later risk. So we have to make sure that our current cybersecurity foundation is solid. Next, we do a cryptographic inventory. So what encryption do we have? What are the dependencies? So there's encryption in hardware, software, firmware. Data is at risk in storage, in use, and in transit. We also have to inform people, make them quantum literate. So raise quantum awareness so we have enthusiasm and desire for this decade of projects. We need to optimize project management and our processes, like approval processes are lean and automated. Change management processes are lean and automated. Our go live is lean and automated, for example. We also want to optimize ITIL, our service management optimization, such as the disposition of legacy technologies. So we dispose of them in an ecologically friendly way. So we optimize our processes for project and service management, automate them. Next, we implement quantum technologies, hardware, software, and integrate it with data. Most organizations will join the quantum revolution by accessing quantum services in the cloud rather than an on-premise quantum computer. Then we implement post-quantum cryptography, our new locks to safeguard organizational data and personally identifiable data. And we work on cryptographic agility. All the endpoint devices have to be secured and their ports locked. We have to stop buying the old classical technology and make sure procurement buys the new stuff. So we have a program of projects that need to be implemented right away. When we do this, we will deliver value. So you can see this is solid ITIL, and it's designed to reduce risk and deliver the right amount of quality. So as a project manager, how would I set this up? We have a decade of projects. So I align with standards and frameworks because these represent best practices. They are generally accepted and they are applicable to most projects most of the time. Okay, so I apply these standards, but I don't do everything in the book. I tailor and combine these standards together. In fact, a good project manager tries to maximize the amount of work they do not do. Let that sink in. We try to maximize the amount of work we do not do. Is our cybersecurity foundation. We want to strengthen this to protect against the CISA, cybersecurity performance goals. And simply, it's just best practices like multi-factor authentication. When we do cryptographic agility projects, there's our service management and project management optimization for the decade of projects. Then we implement quantum technologies. These are likely in the cloud. And then we run our cryptographic migrations to install the new locks from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology out of the United States. So this is how we can implement these technologies. We apply these standards, tailor and combine. And this is what my book is about. It came out in January this year, and it was an Amazon top new release. So the most dreaded question in project management is, when do we have to complete the work? Well, the Australian Signals Director, my government, is recommending Australian organizations to complete this program of work by 2030. So complete the post-quantum cryptographic transition in only 5 years from now. But here's the problem. Many experts are saying this is an 8, 9, 10, 12-year project for many organizations. This organization, the Financial Services Information Systems Advisory Council, a global network, is advising that it takes at least 8 years for banks. This expert, Marin Ivezik, out of Switzerland, is an expert in telecommunication projects, and he has published that he thinks it's over 10 years and 350 million US dollars for a telecommunications company to implement this new hardware and software from NIST. So the result I see is that there's going to be a massive movement from complacency to panic. So we're going to see a number of compressed schedule projects to get this done in a hurry. Much like COVID, everyone jumped online, and it was messy. They introduced vulnerabilities. So for me as a project manager, compressed project schedule approaches are the most risky. Only 1 in 4 projects succeed with these aggressive techniques, compressed schedule projects. So what I've done is I've written a new book coming out in December. And this is called Accelerated Quantum Technologies Change Management. And this is about breaking through the barriers of adoption, developing a quantum strategy based on Iiit, and then evaluating whether or not you have the capacity to do compressed schedule projects. So this is fast tracking or overlapping. This is crashing, adding more resources, and substituting. So what I've done research on construction companies and construction projects who use schedule compression. And I want to tell you about the Leishan Hospital in Wuhan, China, that in 2020, they were overrun, their healthcare system, with sick people. They needed more hospital space, more beds. So what the government did, they initiated a project to build 1,200 bed hospital that we can see here in 12 days. 1,200 beds, 12 days. So what they did, they used schedule compression techniques. First of all, look at all the construction workers. There was to 10,000 people on site. 10,000 people that had to be coordinated. The second thing is that they used substitution, also known as prefabrication in this case. They used 2 sizes of boxes or rooms. They lifted them on by cranes onto trestles. So these rooms were above the ground, And below these rooms was uh, uh, electrical services, AC, power, and so forth. So they used overlapping, they used um, clashing, 10,000 people, and substitution. So they started this project, 12,000 beds, and a few days later there was a change request that moved from 1,200 beds to 1,600 beds. So then they did a change request, proved it, and now it was a 1,600 bed hospital. 2 days later, there was another change request to make it an 1,800 bed hospital. And so then they did a feasibility analysis, impact analysis, approved the change request, and then updated the project plans and built an 1,800 bed hospital in 12 days using schedule compression techniques. So I studied this. I learned what made them successful and how we can implement this on our quantum technology projects. So this is my new book coming out. It's for late adopters. Okay, so it's going to be an amazing week. You're going to learn a lot about Qiskit. You're going to hear some amazing speakers, hands-on workshops. But what next? What next steps can you take? So in IT, we're in the business of continuous learning. IT changes, so we have to upskill. So first of all, finish your studies, do a master degree, and seriously consider a PhD. I'm recommending an MBA for any technology person so that you can have the technology side, like Qiskit and programming, and you will understand the business side, Master of Business Administration, MBA. Because remember, we don't do technology projects for ourselves. We do technology projects for the business. So if you have an MBA, you will better understand what they're trying to do and make better IT decisions. When I finished my MBA, I said, never again. I've had enough school. But after a few years, I got interested and I wanted to learn again, so I did a PhD. Amazing. And certifications. So continue an academic a journey. Also get short, quick certifications. So whatever core area you are, programming, cybersecurity, information systems engineering, whatever, look for certification in your core area. But first, take IDLE Foundation. Graduate and get this done with. It's a simple, easy to understand foundation, but it gives you the terminology and framework to be successful in your IT career. Because Qiskit and programming, that's project work. So get a project management certification. Project management is not just for project managers. It's for project team members as well, so that you will make better decisions in the project. Let me tell you about my friend Rafa Pagan. He has 26 certifications and degrees. He just enrolled in a PhD program. So he is a continuous learner. He is an amazing guy, and he's a role model for me. He reviewed my second book about training. Thank you, Rafa. I appreciate it. So the next steps is continuous learning. But the second step you should have is network. So continuous learning and regular networking. These are critical for your career. So the people on LinkedIn, engage with them. The people you meet here at this Fall Fest, network with them, get their names and numbers. continue your involvement with these people. I did some earlier research, and to have a sustainable career, you need only two things: continuous learning and networking. You do this and you will have not only a sustainable career, but an amazing career. With myself, with continuous learning and networking, I started out in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, a little city of 250,000 people. That took me all over the world, and you can do the same. So my books are about project management. My first book is Shields Up, and it's how to do technology project management and how to optimize processes. Now let me share a little secret with you. If robotics would have been bigger than cybersecurity, I would have written about robotics. But it was my sense 4 years ago that cybersecurity was going to explode and be super critical for national security. So instead, I wrote about cybersecurity project management. But cybersecurity project management is just technology project management. Initiate, plan, design, build, test. Do a transition to production, T2P phase, go live, deliver, close out. So it doesn't matter if that's pharmacy project, a cybersecurity project, or a quantum project. The steps are about the same. My next book I wrote with Chris Walker. He was from IBM, and we trained all our doctors and nurses in our hospital on 42 different IT systems. Physicians, phlebotomists, accounts payable, surgery nurses, 558 roles. If people were not trained in these technologies, we couldn't open the hospital. So this project was on the critical path to open the hospital. We opened the hospital on time, and we didn't harm patients. They were well trained and ready to treat. My new book that came out in January is about putting all these projects together into a program of projects. My new book is not a project management book, really. It's a change management book. It's a business technology book. So it's about strategy. It comes before a project. So quantum cybersecurity is for early adopters, and accelerated is for late adopters. You can order these now. My new book is available for pre-order, and I saw on Amazon it's $16. So it's quite a bargain. What you might also do is just ask your library to order these books and get an e-version of it. Very affordable that way. I chose this company because they make the books affordable. So that's quantum cybersecurity. That is a program of projects. What I do is invite you to connect with me, connect with each other, and make the most of this week. It's a glorious learning opportunity, and I thank the organizers for inviting me. I'm very honored to be with you and speak with you today. So with that, I hand it back to the moderators, and I'd be very happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the insight. We really love this session. And in today's lecture, we are insightful and enlightening session. Thank you so much for the insightful session, sir. We really loved it. And in today's lecture has given us for sure a clear understanding of the broader quantum strategy driving innovation over the next decade. Where project innovation managers and Qiskit programmers collaborate to deliver practical real world solutions. And your insights on a few algorithms helped us to see how quantum computing models complex physical systems and bridges the gap between theory and application. It was really fascinating to learn about its real time use cases in healthcare, really from initiating from the drug discovery to the medical data optimization, showcasing how quantum technologies can create tangible social impact. And we also gain appreciation for frameworks like ITIL, which for sure ensures that technology projects are aligned with organizational goals and deliver structured management and innovation. This lecture also emphasized the value of dual potential of quantum technologies, which is a very crucial point, bridging scientific research and industrial innovation, and showed how quantum computing can drive progress across multiple domains. And most importantly, it encouraged us to adopt to an agile attitude, being adaptive and proactive at the same time, which is essential for success in complex quantum projects. We also recognized the critical challenges in cybersecurity as quantum technologies have the potential to break traditional encryption algorithms. This underscores the importance of robust risk management and careful handling to ensure the quantum innovation remains secure and trustworthy. And it's very generous of you to share the requirements for a sustainable career as the beginners and explorers who are really enthusiastic to explore the world of quantum and entrepreneurship mindset together. We believe this will become the base roadmap for a number of enthusiasts for sure. We're really thankful for that too. And the session has really inspired us to explore beyond coding, sir, to think strategically, collaborate effectively, and contribute meaningfully to these growing quantum ecosystems. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable time, practical insights, and guidance, and for inspiring us to view quantum technology and computing not just as a subject, but as a vision for the future. And now, my dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time you can use and utilize very well for any of your questions. Is that okay, sir? Shall we proceed with the question and answer session?
I said, oh, like, when I start here, I like to ask you a question related. Hospital and the thing you mentioned here is schedule compression technique. And how exactly is related to computing? Like, what my intention to ask this question is, like, the schedule compression technique usually the hardware component that's involved. And we also see that what we see, what we see in the basic stage, and what exactly is related to schedule compression technique in your computing. Yeah. So here's the problem. It's very simple, is that it takes this long to do all the work, but we're waiting. Time is passing. So then we will be left with a small amount of time to do a large amount of work. And so then they will say overlap activities and phases, add more people, flashing. Yeah, and it's very difficult to succeed with this approach. Yeah. So it all comes down to we have a lot of work, but we're waiting, we're complacent. And we're going to go from complacency to panic in a big hurry.
So I want to ask you one more question. What is the idea in something you mentioned that would you please be more precise about that?
A little bit slower was the question.
Like you have mentioned about idea and segregation rights. You please be more precise about that. What is the idea different that we should have?
Okay. Yeah, so with pre-tool, there's like beginner, technical, and managerial certification. Everyone takes the first one called Iiit Foundation. So it gives a high level overview on how to do the basics, beginning with demand, projects, and then deliver value. So Iiit Foundation is the first course. It's the beginner course. It's easy, and that's where you should start. And then if you're a technical person, you can take more technical Iiit certifications, like for architecture, and you can take business certifications from Iiit, such as strategy management. So it's the whole career path with Iiit, but begin with the basics, Iiit Foundation.
Understand.
Well, a pleasant morning, sir. Sir, well, the question I have right now is in order to become a successful project manager in the next decade, as you mentioned, as a student, as a beginner like us who started learning Qiskit right now, what skills, like the technical or non technical skills, do we need to start to learn?
One big thing, one big thing you can do that best project managers do. It's called front end load. Front end load. So when you go to university for a new semester, start reading the week before. Read your topics. Don't delay them for later. So front end load, bring forward work, create opportunity in the future to do something fun or to take care of a risk. So front end load, have your 12-hour days at the beginning of the semester instead of having 12-hour days at the end of the semester. Front end load. The technique that I used in every project, and out of the 18 projects, 17 were successful, except the first one. First one we learned where the weaknesses were, we updated, and then everything else went well. So for students, in week 0, before you start, read, read, read. 12-hour days are easier at the beginning. You're not stressed, you're relaxed, you're healthy. So that's when you can make the biggest progress in your university careers. The first 2 or 3 weeks, front end load, and carry that habit into real projects when you graduate. It's not that difficult. It's a lot of common sense.
Well, thank you, sir. And another question, it's like to get a small information from you, sir. Like, can you share an example of a quantum technology related things that has successfully moved from a lab, like a research lab, to
Yeah.
the industrial use?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just starting. The problem is that our quantum computers are not very stable. Okay, so there's not a lot of really good examples for quantum computing. There are some. My old hospital, Cleveland Clinic in the United States, has a quantum computer from IBM. $600 million project for 10 years. And I think it has one or two chip upgrades. So they are using it to excuse me. My old hospital is using today to detect diseases and to create new medications and drugs. There's in the city in England, Birmingham, they are using quantum sensing to look underground when there's a water break. There's water break, so broken pipe. So they're using quantum sensing to precisely find where the break is. So that reduces the time to fix the broken pipe. That's in Birmingham. Quantum communications is connecting organizations with the new internet, and China is leading the world in that, not a lab. Okay, so what a brilliant question to ask, moving from the lab to commercial. It's just starting, and you're at the front end of all of this.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Hello, sir. Namaste from my side, and this is Tanmay from BCA Data Science. So, today I want to ask what are the major lifestyle changes we can witness after the rise of quantum computing? Like, after the rise of AI, we're seeing ChatGPT in everyone's phone, and that is integrated in our life. So, I want to know what kind of the major lifestyle changes we can witness after the rise of quantum computing.
Yeah. So that's a brilliant question. Thank you. And I would direct you to look at the World Economic Forum Sustainable Development Goals. This outlines big use cases. So we can, according to their vision, we might be able to solve the climate crisis. We might be able to end world hunger. So there's many big problems called wicked problems that quantum um, uh, might be able to solve. It might be able to cure cancer. I don't know. But it's the Qiskit programmer working with engineers, scientists, physicians, and your collaboration will solve the biggest problems. Some people think that quantum's impact will be bigger than the internet. Quantum's impact, it's even been compared to fire, discovery of fire. And look at how important fire is. Yeah, I'm looking into the future. I can't tell the future, but I can only read what the smart people at the World Economic Forum are predicting. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
We are truly honored with your presence here with us today, sir. And thank you so much for taking your time, not for sharing your such a valuable insights to all our students, but for also for your patience in kindly taking this time answering all the questions and queries. So, guys, let's wind this session up with a very big round of applause for such a lovable session to Professor Greg. And for everyone, whoever is watching this online, and all the dear participants, please fill out the attendance and feedback form so that we also could know how much you loved the session.